The chamber of the Galactic Council was a masterpiece of collaborative design, a vast, circular hall floating in the artificial gravity of the neutral station of Aegis. The walls were a patchwork of materials from 100 worlds, the living bioluminescent coral of the Thalassians, the cold, polished obsidian of the Cathar, the woven energy fields of the ethereal lumina. At its center, representatives from 1,000 civilizations debated, bargained, and shaped the laws of the known universe. Today, the air was thick with condescension. The subject was humanity. A newly spacefaring species, they had burst onto the galactic scene a mere 2 centuries ago with a frantic energy that most older races found both amusing and exhausting. They bred like rodents, adapted to new environments with terrifying speed, and possessed a relentless, almost pathological curiosity. They had been provisionally accepted into the community of worlds, but they were very much the junior members, watched with a mixture of fascination and pity. The debate was over a border skirmish on the mineral-rich world of Praxis. A human mining consortium had established a claim, only to be forcibly evicted by a heavily armed mercenary force in the employ of the Volraxi Syndicate, a powerful and respected trading bloc. The Volraxi representative, a being of ornate carapace and multiple blinking eyes named Prefect Xylar, was concluding his address. And so, esteemed colleagues, the actions of the human consortium were in clear violation of the secondary exploitation accords. Their claim was filed with a speed that was, frankly, indecorous. The Volraxi Syndicate, in its long and storied history, has always operated with patience and proper procedure. We merely restored order. The humans, in their characteristic haste, have only themselves to blame. A murmur of agreement rippled through the hall. The older races valued patience, precedent, and procedure. Humanity's frantic scramble was seen as a lack of sophistication. From the human delegations sector, a single figure rose. Ambassador Ilara Vance was a woman in her later years, her face a roadmap of experience, her dark eyes holding a gravity that seemed out of place in this hall of ethereal beings. She did not possess the shimmering grace of the Lumina or the imposing stature of the Cathar. She was simply, unapologetically human. "Esteemed delegates," she began, her voice clear and steady, carrying through the hall's universal translators. "My name is Ilara Vance, and I am the elected representative of the United Earth Confederacy, and I am here to tell you that you are making a terrible mistake." Another ripple, this time of amusement. A mistake? From a human? Prefect Xylar's carapace shimmered with a polite laugh. "Ambassador Vance, we understand your frustration. Your people are new to this. You will learn, in time, that the galaxy does not move at the frantic pace of your homeworld. Patience is the currency of lasting power." Ilara did not react to the condescension. She looked slowly around the chamber, meeting as many alien gazes as she could. "The elders of my world," she continued, "those who came before us, who built our first civilizations from mud and stone, they understood something fundamental. They understood that when you take from humanity, you must do so with finality. You must ensure we can never ever respond." The amusement in the chamber began to fade, replaced by a puzzled silence. "You see," Ilara went on, her voice dropping slightly, forcing them to lean in. "Our history is not one of patience, as you define it. It is one of memory. We remember every slight, every betrayal, every stolen resource. We remember the nations that burned our cities, and we remember how we rebuilt. We remember the plagues that decimated our populations, and we remember how we developed immunities. We remember the tyrants who enslaved our people, and we remember their statues being pulled down into the mud." She gestured toward the star map at the center of the hall, where the Praxis system glowed. "You see a mining claim, a minor squabble, a lesson in protocol for a young species. What we see is the Volraxi Syndicate, backed by the tacit approval of this council, taking what is ours. You think you are teaching us a lesson in patience. You are, in fact, teaching us a lesson in galactic politics. You are showing us exactly who our enemies are." Prefect Xylar shifted, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "This is hyperbolic nonsense. The Syndicate acted within its rights. The Council will rule in our favor. This is how it is done." An ancient being, the Lumina delegate known as the Stillness, pulsed with a soft, questioning light. Its kind rarely spoke, preferring to observe. But now it addressed Alara directly. "Human, you speak of vengeance. This is a primitive cyclical concept. To act on it would be to invite your own destruction. The community of worlds would not allow it." Ilara turned to face the being of pure energy. "With respect, Stillness, you misunderstand. You see a cycle. We see a line. A straight line from a point of injury to a point of resolution. We do not seek vengeance for the sake of a cycle. We seek justice, or in its absence, we seek equilibrium. If we are pushed down, we will eventually stand up. If something is taken from us, we will eventually take it back, or something of equal value. It is not passion, it is physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction." She looked back at the assembled delegates. "My elders warned of this. They said, 'When you go out into the stars, you will find races who are older, wiser, and more powerful. They will mistake your kindness for weakness, your patience for fear, and your willingness to negotiate for an inability to fight. Do not let them.'" A Cathar delegate, a hulking crystalline creature, let out a sound like grinding rocks. "You threaten us, little human? You would bring your primitive warships against the combined might of this council." "I threaten nothing," Ilara said, her voice firm. "I am simply explaining the laws of our nature as my elders explained them to me. The Volraxi have taken Praxis. The Council will likely sanction this theft. This is your decision. But know this, you are not just deciding the fate of a single mining colony. You are writing the first line in humanity's book of galactic history. Make sure it is a line you are prepared to see concluded." The Council ruled in favor of the Volraxi Syndicate. Ambassador Vance and her delegation were escorted out, and their warnings dismissed as the impotent bluster of a humiliated young species. The galaxy chuckled and went back to its ancient, patient business. But in the darkness between the stars, humanity began to write. The Volraxi celebration of their victory was a subdued, dignified affair by their standards. A ceremonial exchange of nutrient fluids and a formal recording of the event in their vast corporate archives. Praxis was now officially theirs, its rich veins of Hyperium confirmed and mapped. It was a good acquisition, a solid return on a modest investment in mercenary fees. They did not notice the small, stealthy probes that had been drifting in the Praxis system since the day after the Council's ruling. And they did not detect the complex web of passive sensors that had been deployed across the asteroid belt by automated human construction drones. They did not see the long game beginning. On Earth, the reaction to the Council's decision was not one of public outcry or protest. There were no riots in the streets, no burning of Volraxi flags, for few people could even identify a Volraxi flag. Instead, a quiet, profound shift occurred. The United Earth Confederacy's Department of Extrasolar Affairs was quietly restructured. Its budget was increased 100-fold. Its new unspoken mandate was simple: prepare. For 50 years, nothing happened. The galaxy continued its slow, ponderous dance. New alliances were formed, old ones dissolved. The humans continued to expand, but cautiously, always within the boundaries set by the Council. And they traded, they learned, they sent their artists and scholars to alien worlds. They were the model junior members of the galactic community, patient at last. Prefect Xylar, now the Grand Prefect of the Volraxi Syndicate, often reflected on the human ambassador's warning with a sense of smug satisfaction. He had been right. The humans had learned their place. They had accepted the loss of Praxis and moved on. Their elders' warnings had been the fearful tales of a primitive people, not prophecy. What the Grand Prefect did not see was the data. For 50 years, automated human ships had been mapping the gravitational eddies of every Volraxi trade route. They had cataloged the patrol schedules of every Volraxi system defense force. They had analyzed the economic output of every Volraxi mining world, identifying not just their strengths, but their critical dependencies. They knew which worlds produced the rare isotopes needed for their FTL drives, which moons refined the atmospheric processors for their hive cities, and which orbital platforms manufactured the guidance systems for their weapons. Humanity had been learning, not with the frantic, visible energy of their youth, but with a patient, meticulous, and utterly focused dedication that the older races had never deemed them capable of. They were not preparing for a war. They were preparing for a resolution. The second phase began not with a bang, but with a flicker. It started on Volraxis Prime, the Syndicate's homeworld, the primary processing hub for their entire economic network, a planet-sized computer that managed everything from traffic flow to resource allocation, suddenly shut down. Not crashed. Shut down. A perfectly executed, multi-layered cyber attack using vulnerabilities that had been discovered and mapped over decades of quiet observation had severed its connection to every subsidiary system. At the same moment, on 100 Volraxi worlds, the same thing happened. Refineries went silent. Traffic control systems went haywire, grounding all space travel. Environmental processors on hive worlds began to fluctuate. The seamless, efficient machine of the Volraxi Syndicate ground to a terrifying, instantaneous halt. Panic ensued. The Volraxi, a species built on order and procedure, had no protocol for total systemic collapse. Their leaders screamed for answers. Their engineers scrambled to find the source of the attack. But every system they touched was compromised. Every line of code a dead end or a trap. And then, the human ships arrived. They did not come in a massive, terrifying fleet. They came in small, precise squadrons, each with a specific target. One squadron jumped into the Praxis system, not to bombard the mining colony, but to take up a stationary orbit directly above it. A simple, unmistakable message. Another squadron appeared over the main Volraxi shipyards. They did not open fire. They simply broadcast a message on all frequencies. The message was from Ambassador Elara Vance. She was very old now, her voice a whisper of what it once was, but it carried the same implacable gravity. Grand Prefect Xylar, esteemed delegates of the Volraxi Syndicate, you will remember me. 50 years ago, I told you that my elders warned of this day. I told you that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. You took Praxis. You believed the matter was closed. For us, it was merely pending. On the main view screen of the Volraxi Council chamber, her aged face stared out at the panicked leaders. We have not fired a single shot. We have not taken a single life. But we have taken your ability to function. Your economy is frozen. Your trade routes are dead. Your people on 100 worlds are facing systemic collapse. This is not vengeance. This is the restoration of equilibrium. You will return Praxis to the United Earth Confederacy. You will formally apologize for your actions of 50 years ago, and you will pay reparations for the resources you have extracted from it. You have one of your standard rotation periods to comply. Grand Prefect Xylar, his carapace now dull with age and terror, stared at the screen. His military commanders were screaming that they could fight, that they could rally their defense fleets. But their defense fleets were grounded, their navigation systems corrupted. Their weapons were online, but they had no idea where to point them. Their enemy was not in front of them. Their enemy was in the wires, in the code, in the patient, 50-year-long preparation. He remembered her words in the council chamber. You must ensure we can never ever respond. They had not ensured that. And now, humanity was responding. Not with fire and fury, but with a surgeon's precision, cutting the tendons of a giant and leaving it helpless on the ground. The Volraxi had no choice. They complied. The news of the Volraxi surrender sent a shockwave through the galaxy, far more profound than any military conquest could have. A young, a supposedly weak species had brought one of the oldest and most powerful trading blocks to its knees without a single casualty. The council chambers on Aegis were filled with a nervous, urgent hum. An emergency session was called. This time, the human delegation was not met with condescending smiles. They were met with fear, suspicion, and a dawning horrible respect. The new human ambassador was a man named Kenji Tanaka. He was calm, polite, and possessed the same unshakable steadiness as his predecessor. He stood before the assembly as the Cathar delegate, the same one who had mocked Ilara Vance 50 years ago, rose to speak. This is an act of aggression, the crystalline being boomed. A premeditated, decades-long act of war. The humans have shown their true colors. They are a threat to the stability of the entire community. A chorus of agreement rose from many delegates. The old powers felt threatened. Their own systems, they now realized, were just as vulnerable. If humanity could do this to the Volraxi, what could they do to them? Ambassador Tanaka waited for the noise to subside. Then he spoke, his voice quiet in the vast hall. Delegate, you call it aggression. We call it recovery. For 50 years we abided by your laws. We accepted your judgment. We paid the price for praxis in lost resources and broken contracts. The Volraxi, with your blessing, enjoyed the fruits of what was rightfully ours. We simply waited for the opportune moment to correct the imbalance. Is that not the very definition of patience you have always valued so highly? He looked around the chamber. You fear us now. You see our potential for destruction. But look closer. Did we exterminate the Volraxi? Did we enslave their people? Did we bombard their worlds? No. We targeted their ability to harm us. We demonstrated a capability and then we stopped. We asked only for the return of what was taken and a formal acknowledgement of the wrong. The equilibrium is restored. The line from injury to resolution is complete. The ancient lumina, the stillness, pulsed with a complex light. Its translated voice filled the hall. You have introduced a new variable, human. Fear. The other races now fear you. This will not lead to equilibrium. It will lead to isolation or conflict. Tanaka nodded respectfully. Perhaps. But fear is a teacher. For 50 years you felt no fear of us. You felt comfortable enough to dismiss us, to take from us, to condescend to us. Perhaps now, a healthy respect will take the place of that comfortable contempt. You will think twice before you dismiss a human claim. You will negotiate with us in good faith, not because you fear our weapons, but because you understand our nature. He turned to face the star map, where the praxis system now glowed with a human identifier. My predecessor, Ambassador Vance, spoke of her elder's warning. She said they told her that older races would mistake our kindness for weakness. Today, we have proven that our kindness is a choice, not a limitation. We are not a warlike species. We do not seek to conquer or enslave, but we are a species with a long memory and an unyielding sense of justice. We will not be the galaxy's victims. We will not be its bullies. We will be its partners. But like any good partnership, it must be built on mutual respect, and respect, as you have all now learned, must sometimes be earned. The galaxy listened, and for the first time they truly heard. The humans were no longer the amusing, frantic newcomers. They were a force to be reckoned with, not because of the size of their fleet, but because of the nature of their spirit. They were the people who remembered. They were the people who, when pushed, would not simply push back, but would wait and plan and ensure that when they finally did rise, they would not need to rise again. The Elders' warning had not been a tale of primitive vengeance. It had been a lesson in fundamental physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Humanity had simply proven that they were the most patient, the most precise, and the most inevitable force of nature in the galaxy. And the galaxy finally had learned to listen.